Okay. Anyways, let's go by the hero-specific changes first, but then there's like actually way bigger changes down the line. But Bebop hook tier 1 reduced from 30% more damage to 25 really doesn't do anything. It's 5%. Like, it doesn't make Bebop less lethal. Bebop, if he gets a hook, and an uppercut, he's gonna kill you in a one-shot no matter what, most of the time, if he's in position. Exploding uppercut tier 2 reduced from 60% weapon damage to 50, also doesn't matter. I talked to Goober. Goober plays Bebop a lot, and he thinks it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters either. Well, I mean, in combination with the gun nerfs, it might matter. They're definitely leaning more towards the spirit meta. But they nerfed Bebop overall. In fact, they reduced the sticky bomb damage also by a bit. I guess Bebop was performing too well on ladder. It's not big nerfs. I think Bebop is still very playable. Calico got buffs, because Calico is bad, and I paid the devs off. Thank you, devs. Calico's bullet damage got increased by 10% to 2.2 from 2. Good quality of life change. Leaping slash radius increased, so it's a bit easier to hit the 2. Thank God, bro. Like, the 2 was fucking... The 2 was actually like very hard to hit in a lot of cases. This is gonna make it a bit easier, a bit more consistent. Tier 2 damage increased also to plus 75 instead of plus 50 on tier 2, so it's worth leveling up the lash to tier 2 early, which I've done already. Quality of life change for Ava destroys breakables while you run, so you can actually kind of like farm the map with Ava. Like, you turn into a cat and you farm boxes. Actually, kind of nice. And then movement speed got increased to 35%. I don't think that this matters at all, because I still think you don't level up Ava until last. Holliday got a lot of changes. So Holliday is doing more damage with the gun, right? The powder keg tier 2 got reduced. The crack shot now triggers on units. Uses half the cooldown when triggered this way. Yeah, of course, it was fun, man. Thanks for joining, bro. Thanks for the bits. So yeah, Crackshot did get a bit better. It scales better with Spirit as well. A bit more damage overall. And it works on creep, so it means you can farm with the Crackshot. So if you're gonna run a Holliday gun build, I think this is a buff to gun. But there's some counter nerfs. For example, Crackshot applying slowing hex, anti-teleport debuff. This got nerfed, so it doesn't apply the movement debuff anymore. The duration actually got increased from Lasso. And then they fixed the hide on damage from bounce pad, sometimes causing it to not hurt heroes on your Lasso. So overall, Holliday buffs, which is funny because Holliday is already really good, and once people learn how to play her, she's gonna be insane now. I don't know why they buff her, actually. I think she was very good. She's a high skill ceiling hero, but like, she's gonna be insane. This is overall definitely buffs for Holliday. Kelvin just got 50 health for free. Kelvin was already good. He's gonna be insane now because Spirit is gonna be better. Spoilers. Mirage, big ass nerf. Mirage, the Scarab's lifesteal got reduced by 25%. Not 25%, like 25. That's 33%. That's a massive nerf to Scarabs. Which, honestly, Mirage deserves it. Like, he was too good. So Mirage Scarabs are about a lot worse. Fire Scarabs max health, Spirit scaling increase. So if you're running like a hybrid or a Spirit build, it's gonna help the Scarabs more. I think they made this change to make people use gun less. Okay. And here's the most controversial changes. Shiv got nerfs, but Shiv might be better than before. Because, so they did nerf the bullet damage by a bit. And they did nerf the slice and dice base damage on the normal slice and dice and the tier 2. But they did increase the spirit scaling. So if you're running Spirit Shiv, okay, if you're running Spirit Shiv, that means your slice and dice is gonna do more overall if you have enough spirit items. So it's not necessarily a nerf. I wouldn't look at this like a nerf. It just means that he's less, I can't speak. It just means that he's less dangerous early on in lane with the slice and dice. But yeah, this is gonna hurt quite a lot if you're running Spirit. Bloodletting got nerfed by a tiny bit, so it now does a full damage after 12 seconds instead of 30, not the biggest deal. And the cooldown got increased from 50 to 60, that's fine. But I do think, Well, we'll talk about the meta in a bit, but I do think Shiv is going to be even better than before. I think Shiv might be the best character in the game, no cap. If we're not considering the new characters. Magic guy got hard nerfs, and like he's still OP, by the way. He still needs more nerfs. But anyways, like you can move faster when you get hexed, when you turn into a rabbit. You cannot apply rabbit hacks into unstoppable, which didn't make sense in the first place. I didn't even know that's a thing. That's stupid. And also it triggers reactive barrier, so you can buy reactive barrier against him to counter his hex a tiny bit. Debuff reducer also works against a rabbit now. And teleporting now drops the urn. Now I heard this is not actually fixed. I heard you can still do it. I don't know. They fucked it up. So you can still teleport the urn. I'm gonna assume there's gonna be another hotfix coming very soon. Then the Vexing Bolt base damage got reduced from 120 to 110. Not the biggest nerf. Vexing Bolt, it does insane damage. It still will do insane damage. And the assistant cooldown got increased. The base cooldown is 40 seconds instead of 30. And the base duration got nerfed also. But overall, it's still a broken hero. If you know how to play him well, you can still one-shot combo. So the combo you can still do on Sinclair is you walk into the enemy, you hex them, right? You put down your assistant and you nuke them with your one. And they still die. And like, I mean, technically, his ult is the best ult in the game because they can copy any ult of the enemy, right? So it's just the best ult in the game. I do think later down the line, people will realize how fucking stupid this hero is. Especially because Gun got nerfed, so Spirit is going to be even better. So this character is probably going to be the most broken character in the game. Other than Shiv. But we'll make a tier list in a second. But this character is fucking broken. Like, they need to nerf him way more. Vindicta surprisingly got nerfed, which is funny because Vindicta was obviously really good, don't get me wrong. But they nerfed gun damage, which made Vindicta overall a lot weaker because Vindicta relies a lot on her gun. But I don't mind it. Move speed got nerfed and bullet velocity got nerfed. So Vyper is actually fucking garbage now. It's crazy. Like I almost want to say he's bad. Vyper base damage reduced from 9 to 7, okay? And it says 9 to 7, but if you look in game, I'll show you in game real quick. Vyper's base damage is actually 6.3. So it got rounded down. It does like, basically it does no damage anymore. It got nerfed by like 33% basically and more. And combine that with the overall nerf to gun, which is 10%. I think he's pretty weak. I think he's pretty weak now, but we'll have to play him. I do think he's pretty weak. Garbage, I think he's gonna be actually like C tier at best. No cap. But that's good. Like, Vyper before was too strong. They might have to... Like, they did nerf him really hard, right? They also nerfed the movement speed. And they nerfed the lethal venom damage. And they nerfed the tier 3 spirit and bullet resist from sliding. So it's quite big nerfs overall to Vyper. And it might turn out that the character is weak. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, and here's something I don't understand. And I'll preface this by, I'm trying to not be biased here, okay? Wraith was a very solid character on high rank, okay? And Wraith probably did deserve some nerfs. But the meta on high rank Wraith was gun in combination with full auto, what I'm running, what Zergi's running, etc., right? I don't know why they nerfed cards. This might make Wraith fucking useless. Because, here's the thing, right? Gun overall is weaker, which means Wraith overall is weaker. But then they nerfed the only spirit damage Wraith has, right? Like, yes, Wraith has some spirit scaling on full auto, which is still okay. But this is gonna make it completely useless in lane. This is massive card nerfs again. I don't get it. Scaling down, cooldown up, right? Which means you can nuke slower. And the summon rate also got nerfed from non-heroes, which means you have less cards for farming and less cards in fights. Yeah, but I don't understand. That's my point. Why did they nerf her lane? The meta already was, in lane you would use cards, and they were very good, or pretty solid. Like, she was a pretty good laner, not amazing, right? Like, she wasn't amazing already, but now she's completely horrible in lane. And then they buffed the telekinesis, which is funny, because telekinesis was already pretty solid. It's really good now, actually. So it casts faster, so the cast delay, got reduced, which means it casts like 100 milliseconds faster even, which is a buff. Silence lasts for half a second longer, and the up and down motion, this doesn't sound like a lot, but it's quite big. The up and down motion is lasts for 0.25 seconds longer, which means the stun lasts. This is a full stun, right? So you can now use telekinesis again to steal mid-boss easier. I actually saw it happen yesterday on stream. I was watching Deathy, and telekinesis, like the new telekinesis, actually made it so they could steal mid-boss. So it's weird. It's weird. I think Wraith is still okay, but I think she's mid-tier. Like, I want to say she's not that great, because Wraith needed to at least come out even in lane to snowball, and now Wraith is most likely gonna lose most lanes. It just feels kind of lame, because these changes, what they mean is, she has to build even more gun, but gun got nerfed, right? I wish they would have instead nerfed maybe the bullet damage a tiny bit more even, and kept the cards the same at least, right? Because now there's no reason whatsoever to use cards. Cards are completely fucking useless. And no, cards were not one-shotting in lane. They were not. The only way you got kills on lane with cards is if the enemy didn't pay attention at 2.2k and you had all the spirit stack with infuser, ammo scav, and you ran into the Wraith. But if you played safe against Wraith, you were already not in danger of dying, is my opinion. So, let's be honest. Cards was not the OP thing about Wraith. Okay? If anything, the strong thing about Wraith was the gun damage. Right? And the ult combo gun damage. Right? She was good at nuking and she was good at killing towers. And now you still have to play her like that. We'll have to play her. But I think this is the wrong nerfs. Anyways. Yamato bullet damage got reduced. And now the big part. This is the big thing that you have to keep in mind. Every single character's gun damage after these changes got nerfed for another 10%. Okay? And 10% is big. Okay? Keep in mind, that means every single character's gun is weaker. Which means characters that use their gun less are better, right? Think about Pocket. Pocket. Big winner in this patch, right? Pocket had no changes in this patch, technically. In fact, he's weaker than before, right? Because his gun does less damage. But Pocket doesn't really care about his gun much, right? Pocket's damage comes from the spirit burst. Think Kelvin, right? Kelvin didn't really use, like, yeah, you shot your gun, but Kelvin's strength came from his spirit and his tankiness. And Kelvin got buffed with HP as well, right? Which also means characters that have been using their gun non-stop will be a lot weaker now. And I'll go over this in a second when we talk about the tier list, because I want to go over every single character in specific. But this has a lot of implications on heroes. You might not think that, like, you might think Shiv is weaker. I think Shiv is stronger than before. By a lot. Because other characters got hit harder. But we'll get into this. They nerfed extra stamina. I still think it's an OP item. It makes sense that they nerfed it. It's just the best it's the best 500 item in the game still. It's insane. This doesn't matter. It makes sense that they nerfed it. It's so good. I'll still buy it on all my heroes, by the way. Like, I'll still buy it. It's just too good. Alchemical Fire got nerfed. Reduced from minus 40% effectiveness versus non-hits to minus 50, so it's even weaker against objectives and creeps. And the weapon damage in the radius got reduced also, so it's also weaker against heroes. So, like, if you run it with the gun build, it's weaker. It's still good for spirit builds. Still a great item, but you have to think about more when to run it, you know. Before, yesterday, we had every single person in the lobby run fucking Alchemical Fire. Now it's a bit weaker. Hunter's Aura got slightly nerfed, but I think this is not enough. So the bullet resist reduction got reduced by 1%, okay? What that means is, if you're alone against someone, they now have 24 instead of 27 negative resist. 3% less. But they up the fire rate reduction. Which means, yeah, you'll kill the enemy a tiny bit slower, but they will also shoot slower against you, so the fight is just gonna last a bit longer, which means this item is still amazing. I don't know, man. This is not really a nerf in my opinion. This is like doing nothing. Hunter's Aura is still insane. I want to say it's now actually kind of the best gun item, because the actual gun items that up gun damage are weaker, because guns in general do less damage. The strength of Hunter's Aura was really that it also fucked the enemy, right? That the enemy couldn't shoot back. Tesla still usable? Tesla is better. Anything that does spirit damage now is better, okay? Tesla got a big buff technically. So, and they nerfed Sharpshooter, which is good. It's still a good item, by the way. 10% nerf is kind of big for weapon damage and movement speed. But like I think now you don't run sharpshooter on every single character, you run sharpshooter on long-range characters. You can still, it's still great on Great Talon, it's still great on Vindicta, it's still great on Mirage, and it's probably really good on Holliday. If you guys don't know, by the way, Holiday's gun has like no fall off. She's like a sniper. People don't realize that she is, but she has the same like fall off as Vindicta. So this item is still really good. But yeah. Enough yapping, we'll get into tier list and I'll give you reasoning on why. This is obviously early, okay? We haven't played a lot, okay? So, I'm sorry if you watch this on YouTube, the meta might change. I would rather do a tier list early and predict it than wait until the meta is fully developed. I want to give you like, you know, maybe a head start. So, where do I put myself? That I will move you. You're in the way, chat. You're in the way. Wait, I'll put myself up here and you can be below me. Like the peasants you are. Now I can look down on you. Okay. Okay. Anyways, head start? What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm just trying to... I'm gonna give you secrets right now that Zergy will not figure out for 7 days because Zergy doesn't understand that Tesla is even better now, okay? But yeah, Spirit is good. I think Spirit is good. The meta will change drastically. 10% weapon damage is a lot, okay? Because we're talking about base damage, okay? Which means every item that adds more gun damage is also nerfed by 10%. It's a big deal. Think about it this way. You know how Swift Striker gives you like some fire rate? This is like... Oh, not quite, but like imagine every single character in the game has a negative Swift Striker to start with. Kind of like that. Or imagine, like a better example would be, like think about any item in the game early that gives you like 50%, 10% weapon damage. Like think about basic magazine, okay? This is like if every character in the game had a negative basic magazine. Kinda, you know? Like, of course it's you know, there's math involved, but it's the base damage that got nerfed. Okay. Alright, so we'll start with Abrams. So the thing is, Abrams, if you guys haven't paid attention to the last few patches, Abrams spirit scaling got buffed quite a lot, but people have still been running gun, right? But in pro meta, Abrams is already being run because Abrams is the best character in the game to steal mid-boss still, right? Like if you ult on Abrams, you get a guaranteed punch or parry on the mid rejuvenator, right? So Abrams is the best character in the game to steal mid-boss. And I do think he's about the same, if not better now, right? Because Abrams doesn't really run a massive amount of gun items. He runs, a lot of Abrams players run melee items because, you know, you can get a guaranteed melee with a charge, right? And melee items are not as affected as much as gun items. Because melee damage obviously didn't get minus 10% damage, okay? So I want to put Abrams in A tier. I think, and we're talking here, by the way, if you're watching, this is gonna be a tier list on like around high rank. I want to say, like I want to take an average. It's not gonna be an initiate lobby rank, but like I want to say there's like Ascendant plus. But I think you can apply all the concepts that I'm gonna give you here and apply them to any rank if you play the character properly. This is a tier list for ladder and not pro play. Because we're not pro players. At least I'm not and you're probably not also. Unless Zergy is watching. I love you, Zergy. So this is going to be a ladder tier list for you to climb on ladder. Okay? So Abrams, I want to put in A tier. I think he's very solid and he probably benefited more from the patch. Because like you can run more spirit on him. And again, gun is weaker but melee is not. So Abrams... I want to put in like low A tier, okay? So like A minus. He's gonna be like down here, like on the lower end of the tier. So Bebop, I think, got nerfed a bit. He was really strong in pro play. Because he's really like, if you get a hook, you get a free kill, right? But I want to say for ladder, he's like middle of the pack, like maybe high middle. Actually, I'm gonna put him A tier. If I put Abrams A tier, I have to put Bebop A tier too. Again, the hook combo will still kill you, and we'll have to see if people will run gun still. I think he still does insane burst with this gun. If you get a hook uppercut combo, you can still kill people instantly. And even his spirit didn't get nerfed a lot. I think he's solid. Like, A tier. Dynamo is an interesting one. I do think any character that mostly casts and is not really using gun a lot is better. So I want to put Dynamo... high B tier. He kind of fell off like the last few weeks because... Like, while Black Hole is still the best ultimate in the game, right? Like, he didn't really do a lot of gun damage. Gun Bebop is kind of troll. So, he got better with the patch. Same for Great Talon, in my opinion. I think Great Talon is actually very solid now. I almost want to put him A tier as well. Because Great Talon... yeah, I will talk about Magician in a second. But Great Talon... Great Talon is better because he's like now the best sniper. Because I think Spirit Great Talon is way better than Spirit Vindicta, obviously, right? And the weakness of Great Talon was that he wasn't really amazing with gun, right? So if you ran gun, you were better off running Vindicta. But I think the meta will develop more into Spirit, and Great Talon is obviously the biggest Spirit nuke in the game, right? On safe distance. So I think Great Talon really, really strong. Haze. I don't want to call her shit. I don't think she's that bad because they did change Haze to where she does more Spirit damage, right? So... you can include more spirit items in your build and probably be fine, but Haze is still first and foremost a character that benefits a lot from gun damage. Not as much as other characters, to be fair, because on Haze, fixation matters, and fixation does spirit damage, right? And fixation is mostly affected by fire rate and not necessarily the base gun damage. So, the reason I'm not going to put Haze higher than C is because she was very weak before. I think she was like D tier before. And now she's like... She's better, a bit better than before, but she's still kind of trash. Infernus, better, for sure. For sure. Infernus is a really, really solid spirit dealing damage character. And he didn't get, like, Infernus doesn't care that the damage of his bullets are 10% less, because Infernus, most of Infernus' damage comes from the afterburn and the run, obviously, right? So Infernus is back. I think Infernus might turn out, like I might even misplace him. He might even be S tier. In fact, I'll put him low S for now, because I do think there's not a lot of carry like damage healing characters that can do the job better than Infernus now. Yeah, Infernus is back. Ivy also back. Ivy was never gone. Let's be honest. Like Ivy is like the best support in the game, other than Kelvin. And Ivy can run. Like Ivy benefits a lot from Spirit. And yes, I know that there was a gun Ivy build that was really solid, and Ivy did scale pretty well into late game, but the strength of Ivy was always, you know, the ult, being able to save teammates, initiate, and like help the team out, right? So Ivy's late game is going to be a bit weaker, but I think Ivy's early game is going to be a lot stronger. So Ivy is 100% S tier, really good character. Same for Kelvin. I think Kelvin is insane. You don't seem to, like, 50 more HP on base, right? That's like almost a 10% HP buff, which makes Kelvin insanely tanky in lane. Keep in mind, Kelvin has a Spirit Shield on base, right? He is very tanky already against Spirit. And Kelvin is also really good scaling with Spirit damage, right? He's like the best healer in the game, the best support in the game. Kelvin is really, really strong. If you like being a support player, play Kelvin. You'll win. And I hate this. I hate this one. So Geist was in the same ballpark as Infernus, to where she was already solid last meta. And yes, people ran Frenzy on Geist, right? And people ran Gun Geist. But Geist was always a Spirit spam character, right? So even if people ran Frenzy, they still had Spirit items. And Gun is weaker now. Geist does not care as much about Gun being weaker than other characters like Wraith, for example, right? Or like Warden. So I think Geist is gonna be meta. I think Geist is very, very strong. Not quite as strong as Infernus, but Spirit is gonna be fucking annoying. I need to be careful to not put too many characters in S tier. Lash is already... I want to put Lash A tier. Lash also a character that benefits way more from Spirit, right, than Gun. Yeah, people were running some Gun items before the patch, but Lash's main damage and strength comes from his ult, his ground slam, right? The way he can initiate fights, the way he can, if the enemy is pushing walkers, you can throw them into walkers, and all of that still applies. Gun is weaker, Lash gets better, right? Because funnily enough, one of the biggest counters to Lash was gun damage. Because gun players could aim when he was jumping around at Mach 5 above you, could aim at him and kill him. There weren't a lot of spirit abilities that could do that, right? Like, yeah, you can stun him before he does that, but once he's in the air, which character does a lot of spirit damage to him in the air? Not a lot, right? Like, there's not a lot of heroes that do spirit damage in the air. Like, even if you look at the new characters that got added, Calico can't reach him, basically, in the air. Like, Calico is, like, mostly a ground-based character. I mean, Vyper is shit. Magician is gonna be the best character in the game, by the way, so it doesn't matter about. And Holliday, again, the spirit got nerfed a tiny bit, and the one weakness of Holliday is actually catching characters in the air. Yeah, which I guess we can talk about Magician. You might think this is copium, because I've seen a lot of people play Magician incorrectly. If you learn how to use your one, if you learn how to like hit your one on the enemy, this character is insanely broken still. And he's not a gun character, right? Like, he was already, like, he's been out for a few days and people ran spirit on him. And the combo right now is you hex the enemy, then you put down your copy or whatever it's called, your assistant, and then you press 1 and you kill them and they're dead before they come out of hex. And you can still do that. And he has the best ult in the game because you can copy any ult in the game, right? So he's a really high skill ceiling character. He's very hard to learn, and I do think it requires some practice to learn the one especially. But I've already played against magicians that are really fucking annoying. Because you also can't punish him, right? Okay, I've had fights where I go into, like, where I see the magician, and I go into him and use ult, and then suddenly he's gone. Because he was smart enough to put down his, like, fucking assistant, like, way back on the map, right? So he can bait cooldowns, like, he can initiate, he can run in first, people go on him, and then he just teleports out, and you can't, as the other team, you can't even tell if he has, like, his copy out. You can't tell, because it's infinite range, right? It's a literal Mickey Mouse character. Yeah, that's why Wild plays this character too, because it's like Pocket. It's Mickey Mouse. More OP than Mickey Mouse, by the way. This is Minnie Mouse, bro. It's really, like, he will need a lot of nerfs. He will need a lot of nerfs. Because, like, you, again, right now you can't tell. I can show you some replays later. You cannot tell if he has a copy out unless the copy is right next to him. And a lot of smart magicians already place a copy in the back to play safe, right? And obviously Hex is fucking broken. It's a 3-second stun on max level, basically, or a 3-second disable, which is a normal ability. And then his ult is copying any ult of the enemy, right? So you can choose what you want. Like, oh, do I need to be getting life back? Let me copy Warden ult, right? Oh, do I need to nuke someone? Let me copy Bebop ult. Oh, enemy Dynamo used ult? Let me copy and black hole the enemy Dynamo, right? Like, holy shit, he's insane. And I love the character, by the way, like, the idea of the character is really cool, but he's broken if you learn how to play him. Which I guess, now we can talk about Vyper, and this might be controversial, and maybe I'm coping. Maybe Vyper is still good, maybe I'm gonna regret what I'm about to say, but I think Vyper is one of the weakest characters in the game now. His damage literally, or her damage, sorry, her damage got nerfed by over 33%. Okay, and what made Vyper strong is the fact that she could burst insanely fast, and she's now weaker in slide, like she has less tankiness, right, if you max slide. And maybe I'm gonna be wrong, and people are gonna start running Spirit Vyper, and they're gonna put a lot of damage into the 1 and 2. But again, the 2 only does damage if the enemy is low, right, and the 1 doesn't really do a lot of damage. So I think it's a gun character, but now the gun is too weak. And I don't mind it, like Vyper was way too broken before, but now she might be a bit too weak and might need some compensatory buffs. But like, once you play Vyper in the new patch, you'll realize how little damage she does. Like, she's weak. And yeah, I know people are saying Vyper still has the highest gun damage in the game, that's correct. But you have to keep in mind, it's one of the least accurate guns in the game. So even if you have really good aim, you will miss a lot of shots. And she has to reload a lot. And I know her entire mechanic is sliding and keeping the reload up. But I do think, like, I think she's weak. And you can kill me for it, but I think she's weak. I don't think she's unplayable. I think we're still balanced to the point where no character is unplayable. Okay, I'm not saying she's garbage. I'm just saying compared to other characters, she's kind of weak. But now thinking about it compared to Haze, we'll have to see. I'll keep her a bit lower than Haze. McGinnis is a tough cookie. I think it depends on how well you use her. There's very few McGinnis players that make her work. But Gun McGinnis is obviously kind of dead, but turrets are really good. Right? Turrets are better. Because Spirit got... Well, Gun got nerfed. So, I think McGinnis is a solid support character. I don't want to put her, like, super S tier. But I think she's, like, great at split pushing. Moen Krill got buffed. Somehow. Like, he's already really strong in pro play even. You see him, like, run into the enemy and get a kill every, like, minute because he gets a cooldown. Moen Krill doesn't really care about his gun damage, right? Moen Krill cares about disabling the enemy. Yeah. Honestly, I'm gonna put Geist A tier and Moen Krill S tier. That seems more accurate. And again, this is, like, somewhat predictions in the end. But, like, yeah, I think those characters are insane. Moen Krill is insane. I have too many characters in S tier. We need to relegate people down. Because I'm gonna put Paradox in S tier as well. Paradox got even better. Paradox already did a lot of spirit damage. And yes, you could run gun on Paradox. But Paradox's strength is swapping someone and getting a free kill. Right? Spirit better, gun worse, Paradox happy. And Paradox was already OP before. But you gotta play her well, okay? She's a high skill ceiling character. I want to say Pocket is better. I don't think Pocket is gonna be like... Like, before this patch, I would have put Pocket like... We need to take an average. It's so hard. I think there's so many characters that are good. What do you think about Pocket, chat? I think Pocket is better, but I don't think he's gonna be meta again. B? I think Pocket is like a slot filler, like kinda like I don't think he's that good. Gun nerfs help him? Yes, he's better than before, but before this patch I would have put Pocket C tier. I do think he's better than before, for sure. Pocket is still being played every time in tournaments. But I mean, so is Infernus, so is Moen Krill. Like, there's not that many characters in this game, right? So if you look at if you want to go tournament meta, you know, Kelvin is almost always picked, Infernus is almost always picked before, Moen Krill is always picked, Paradox is always banned, right? Ivy is almost always picked, and Geist is not always almost always picked, but Geist got better, right? Like, so it's like hard to say, like... Yeah, I agree. He's still playable. He's high B tier, but I don't think he's as good as the upper roster. Which brings me to 7. I do think 7 is better than before. Before this patch, I would have put him as the worst character in the game. Unironically. But now with Gun being weaker, 7 got stronger. Especially in lane, he's gonna take less damage, right? The weakness of 7 in lane is that he can, he has the biggest head hitbox in the game. So a gun can just shoot him and perma headshot him. So he's gonna take less damage in lane. And I mean, obviously 7 is built around Spirit. And which is better now, right? You want to get more Spirit damage out. So I do think he's better than before. I can't put him higher than C+ in my consciousness. Because I don't think he's gonna be, like, super good. Like, I think he's gonna be middle of the pack, lower middle of the pack. But that's still a big upgrade from not being played at all, okay? That's the thing. Like, he went from the worst character in the game to, like, lower middle of the pack without getting changed at all, technically, right? Vindicta. I want to put in this, like, Vindicta went from hard meta to, like, mid. I think she's mid. I think she's gonna be mid. No, I think she's gonna be mid. It's not cap. Her movement is slower. Her gun has lower velocity, which means it's going to be less accurate on long range. And gun builds in general got nerfed. And Spirit Vindicta is good, but not as good as Spirit Great Talon, right? We're filling the sniper, sit in the back and do damage category. And I think, I want to predict this, you can call me crazy. I think Great Talon is going to be a better character to do that than Vindicta. I think Vindicta, high middle of the pack. No. Spirit Vindicta was not better than Gun Vindicta before. That's cap. That is cap. Spirit Vindicta is solid, but it wasn't better than Gun. Scuba or Vegas, both of them ran gun. Like, yeah, they had a hybrid build where they had spirit damage, but both of them had a lot of gun items. I watched their games. Yes? You want to bet? Let me call Goober. No, people ran sharpshooter always, long range, burst fire, that kind of shit. Like, yeah, they had items that up the gun, the spirit damage, but I do think Vindicta is gonna be weaker. I said it. Okay, Warden, I think got hit one of the hardest. So the thing with Warden is, Gun Warden was obviously really strong, but even the last week of the patch, or even before the 4 heroes were added, he kind of fell out of the meta. Like, he was like last pick in a lot of pro matches, and he was being picked way and way less on the ladder, because Gun Shift just did what Warden did, but better, right? So Gun was already like it was good, don't get me wrong. Like, that's the main thing Warden does. Like, this gun was good. But he kind of already fell off a bit, and now with the gun nerfs, Gun Warden is pretty weak, I would say, in my opinion. And I don't think Spirit Warden is up to par with Gun Warden unless you're Hydration. I saw one game of Hydration where Hydration absolutely popped off on Old Warden, and I think the main way to play Warden nowadays is gonna be, I'm actually gonna put him definitely higher than 7, by the way. I'm gonna put him B tier. Yeah, I think CT is a bit too low, but the main way is gonna be Majestic Leap and then like Arcane Surge and play around the ult, right? Like ult, like Mystic. Spirit Warden is gonna be back, but it's not gonna be OP, in my opinion. Like, it's not gonna be like the broken character, you know, where you go like, oh my god, we can't stop Warden. Yeah, I mean, like, Hydration is probably the best Warden in the game. Hydration does make things work that other players don't. I don't want to suck Hydration's dick, but he's really good. Like, he makes things work that other players don't make work. Like, he also played Spirit Shiv and made it look really fucking strong in the gun meta, you know? Like, okay. I want to say Wraith is bad, bro, but I'm biased. You can tell me I'm wrong, but again, like, Wraith is now a terrible laner because they nerfed the cards even more. And my build that I was running was already like a hybrid build, right? But it was mostly gun damage still, and nobody in pro play or high level ranked is using cards after lane. No one. Not Zergy, not me, and I'm not calling myself a pro player, but like, if you look at Aurora, right, like Sanya Sniper, nobody was using cards after lane. Like, card builds were dead already, and they nerfed them more. I don't know why. The ult is better, but the gun damage is really gonna hurt Wraith, because now Wraith is in a situation where she has to run gun, because cards do nothing, but gun got nerfed, right? It would have made more sense, in my opinion, to nerf the gun damage of Wraith a bit more, and buff the cards a bit, so she can use Spirit. But now she's a gun character. She's kind of the same as Haze. She's a mostly gun-focused character in a meta that is probably going to be more Spirit, and her Spirit damage is going to be basically 0, unless you're smart and you follow Metro Deadlock on YouTube, and you subscribe right now, because Metro Deadlock on YouTube does make the best Wraith builds in the game. And I can tell you my build is probably still gonna work. It's still gonna be solid. Memes aside, like, you can probably, like, what I'm running with Surge of Power under 3 is probably gonna be the main thing, where you need some spirit damage, and the more spirit damage you have on your gun, the better. So Tesla is gonna be even better. Zergy is gonna hate to hear this, but like, Tesla is gonna be even better, because Tesla scales with spirit, right? So you want to diversify your damage on Wraith, if that makes sense. And the diversification is not card, because card sucks. So the diversification is gonna come from buffing your 3 with spirit. Yamato, this might be very controversial, but I think Yamato will be better than before. Or not better, okay, Gunner Yamato was broken, but Yamato was already a really insane spirit character, right? But the gun was so broken that nobody ran it, right? So Spirit Yamato is back on the menu. Easy A tier, might turn out to be S tier. Like, we've seen the Yamato spirit builds. They've always been a thing, right? We've seen the fucking refresher, permanent slash, permanent all cooldowns, permanent ult builds, right? Yeah. Spirit Yamato didn't get nerfed, right? That's the thing. Like, Yamato is still insane. Like, I don't think Yamato actually cares much about gun nerfs because Yamato's spirit damage. Like, she's gonna be a bit weaker in lane because they did nerf her base gun damage by quite a bit. Oh yeah, where's Mirage actually? Wait, let me find a picture of Mirage. I don't know why this. Wait, I'll fix it. Bum, 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 bum. Let me put Mirage in here. Mirage versus Mirage is a lot weaker. Mirage got the hardest nerf out of any character in the game, in my opinion. I think Mirage might be dog shit. No, I take that back. He's not going to be dog shit. But I think he's going to be a lot weaker. Okay, I added Mirage. Here we go. We're back. So, another controversial pick. I actually unironically think I'll put Calvin A tier. I don't think he's gonna be must pick, but I think Shiv is low-key better than before. And hear me out why. Not better, he's S tier though. Hear me out. Knife bleed builds were already almost as good as the permagun unkillable build. Yes? The knife bleed builds were already almost as good as the gun builds. So yes, the gun builds got nerfed, right? But the two, like the dash of Shiv got buffed in spirit builds. If you get enough spirit items, dash will do more damage. What does that mean? Spirit Shiv is even better than before. Okay? So he's gonna be harder to play, which I can respect. But if you play him well, I will say this now, I think he's gonna be very, very insane. He's gonna be very insane. Because if you look at the nerfs, the bloodletting, yeah, is gonna hurt him a bit. But the dash is gonna be stronger in spirit builds. And yes, you will not run gun anymore. Probably on Shiv, you will probably not run gun anymore. But Spirit was already up there. So now, like, he's one of the best Spirit characters in the game. He was, before the patch, he was one of the best Spirit characters in the game, right? It's just that nobody ran the Spirit damage because gun was just better. But, like, there is a reason he's up there. Yeah. Yeah, if Mian can't hit a Sun in this patch, bro, it's time to retire. I'll actually put Great Talent down in B because we need an average, you know? I need a bell curve. Viscous. I actually don't know jack shit about this character, man. I think he's solid, right? I don't think he's gonna change much in strength. Like, I think he's gonna still be really solid. I'll put Bebop. I'll put Yum. I'll put. This looks better. This looks better. Yeah, I think Viscous got a solid A tier. I don't have the highest input on Viscous. It's probably the character I understand the least. From my understanding, Viscous did run some gun items in the last patch, but the main strength of Viscous is, you know, the ult, right? And the puddle punches, which again are not affected by the gun nerf. So I think Viscous is probably gonna benefit a bit from the changes. And he's already really solid. He was already really solid, so I'm gonna put him on the top of A tier. Holliday, I think people are still not understanding how to play this character. I think Holliday is really busted. Not quite as busted as Magician, but I'm gonna put a S tier actually. Holliday does insane spirit damage. The Holliday barrels, you can stun the enemy in the air. She has insane movement. She can stun you with the 2, right? And she's insane. She's the best laner in the game, by the way. This character surpassed Mirage as the best laner in the game because you hit one headshot and you do 300 damage. It's ridiculous. If you have good aim and if you're skillful, this is the best 1v1 laner in the game. She's very oppressive in lane. She's insane. I think she's only gonna grow stronger the more people learn her because she is very high skill ceiling. But if you look, I watched Goober play yesterday. He does insane things on this character already, and it's like, what, 3 days into this patch, right? Yeah, this character is insane. Like, she will probably need nerfs. More nerfs. Calico, I think, is mid. Even after the buffs, I think she's low mid. Calico, what she does is she's a frontline brawler. She can take a lot of... No, Calico is mid. Calico is not meta. I will stand on top of that hill. And other players agree, by the way. Calico, of the new characters, is by far the worst. By far the worst. until they hard nerf Vyper. But yeah, like Calico is playable. She's a tank. Like, she goes in, initiates, and then causes a lot of disruption, can stay alive for a while, and she can be annoying, but she doesn't do a lot of damage by herself. She's very annoying, and if the enemy uses her, like, she can get value with the ult, obviously, right? You can bait a lot of cooldowns. Like, a lot of the time I go in, and then the Beeper puts 2 bombs on me, and the 7 stuns me, and then I press ult, and I don't take anything, right? And I get away from my team. So she's very good at stomping noobs, in my opinion. So if you feel like Calico is OP, then you're probably a noob. Hi, Wild. No, I think she's very good at getting cooldowns out, and she's very good at stalling, right? Like, she's very good at stalling. She can stay alive for a long time, especially if you buy Ethereal Shift too. Yeah, she's like this, yeah, a disruptor, exactly. But she doesn't do a lot of damage by herself. She did get buffed. I think, well, time will tell. I do think her 2 is still too inconsistent. Pro tip, if you will play against Calico, just run melee range into her. She cannot hit you with the 2. She cannot. Like, she can do some tech with the jump and hit you, but like, yeah. And Mirage, I want to put Mirage B tier. Because the Scarabs literally got nerfed by 33%. And Scarabs is what made Mirage so insanely strong in lane and mid game, right? Like, late game, he still hits like a truck, but the gun, again, you were running gun on Mirage, right? So gun is weaker, so the late game carry potential and mid game carry potential and gun is weaker. You can run Spirit, right? You can run Spirit and do the burst build, but like, people are usually good enough to not take 8 stacks or 12 stacks off the Jin's mark. So I actually want to say Mirage had the biggest drop, like the biggest change other than Vyper. The 2 biggest changes this patch were nerfs to Mirage from absolute best character in the game, or S tier, to middle of the pack at best, and Vyper from absolute best character in the game, you know, after Mirage, or before Mirage, sorry, to absolute dog shit. Also, fuck you, Haze. Now we have a nice bell curve, kinda, on the upper end. TLDR about this patch, I think it's really cool. I'm excited to play more Spirit. We'll have to see if the gun nerfs are enough. In a week, it might turn out that the gun nerfs weren't even enough. But I do think we'll get into a meta with more Spirit. People will definitely run more Spirit, especially on characters like Shiv, Yamato, Mirage, right? Like, I'm talking about characters that did run gun before and now will run Spirit again. Like Shiv, Lady Guys, Yamato come to my mind the most. Because those characters were supposed to be kind of Spirit characters, but they were running hard gun until now. And now they're going to be back to like Spirit, in my opinion. So it's going to be exciting to see. Same for Vindicta and Great Talon. Especially Vindicta, I think we'll see even more Spirit. And maybe even Abrams. Maybe we'll see like an Abrams, like Spirit kind of more sustained build. I don't know. We'll see. I like the patch overall. It's cool. I do think the new characters will need a lot more balancing. A lot, like, you know, like I'm sure they'll put out another 4 patches at least until we have the new characters somewhat balanced. Right, I still think Magician and Holliday are completely broken. I still think Calico needs some buffs, and I think they'll struggle with making Vyper balanced, because Vyper is too reliant on his gun right now. Like, the spirit damage he does is not that good. She does, sorry. So, it's a cool patch. I'm really excited. Before you hate me in the comments, again, this is supposed to be a tier list about, like, high rank ladder meta, okay? Not necessarily pro play. I'll try to take an average of everything. I think most of the stuff I said applies to low ranks, but in low ranks I think characters like Haze and 7 might be a bit better. Because in low ranks, aiming is a bit easier, I'd say. Like people in lower ranks have worse movement. So don't hate me if you disagree. Let me know in the comments. I love you, and see you next time. Okay, that's for YouTube. You can say bye, chat, and then, like, we play. Or you don't say anything, and I just end the video right here. Okay, it's over.